Well, hey, friends, welcome back to another episode of the Therapy Show. This is your host, Lisa Mustard, and my guest this week is Avivit Fisher. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I know. And I love how we connected, which is over on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So if you guys aren't on LinkedIn, you need to be because you will connect with some awesome people. I don't even know how we initially connected. It was just somehow a comment or something. I don't know.
An introduction, I think. Steve Turney
Okay.
introduced us.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Okay, yes. And
yeah,
Steve Turney is the executive director of the Mental Health Marketing Conference. Did I get that
that's
right?
right.
Okay,
Yeah,
and that's coming up in September in Tennessee, right?
yeah,
And you and I will actually get to meet in person. So I'm really
yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah, me too. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So big thanks to Steve for connecting us. Will you share with our listeners who you are and what you do and how you help therapists?
Of course. So I'm a mental health marketing expert. This is how I would describe myself. I work with private practice owners that want to reach and work with private pay clients for the most part, and I help them with their marketing. So I help them figure out their marketing as a coach. So we work together, and I help them figure out who their niche is. I help
Mhm.
them figure out how to create a core marketing message for their niche. I help them figure out the strategy for their marketing and come up with a plan that includes, digital marketing and includes also offline marketing.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. And
mhm,
you have a website. What's the name of your
yeah.
website?
My website name is Red Strategy. It's REDD strategy
Okay.
.com.
Okay, great. We'll put that in the show notes so you guys can go and check her out. So, can I ask, how did you decide to pick working with therapists? Like, how did you figure out that's what you wanted to do?
Sure. So, like everyone who goes into mental health space, I did it because of personal reasons.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to work with just small business owners, and in 2015, the apartment building where I lived burned down
Mhm.
to the ground.
Oh
And
gosh.
yeah, so my family and residents of some 250 other apartments, we lost everything. And at that time, I remember we received a lot of support that was like some of it was financial, some it was support with donations from the community. But then after, I don't remember anybody kind of referring us to therapists. That was a huge fire. So it was, if you live in the New York area, people knew about it. So I found it very strange that there was no referrals from the management of the building. We also sued the building, so we worked with a lawyer. So the lawyers didn't refer us to anybody, and we kind of were left to our own devices. And time things start catching on because you kind of life doesn't stop. You move on, and then you notice that it's very difficult emotionally to deal with something like this. And I found myself like Googling how to overcome a house fire emotionally. And I really couldn't find any information besides like how to deal with insurance, like very practical steps of overcoming a house fire. And then I started looking for a therapist because I figured I need to see someone because I was feeling like I couldn't figure it out. And I saw the way therapists presented themselves. I saw that it was very, very different from the way people are looking for their services.
Mm.
And I had this kind of a light bulb go off, and I was like, that can be a very interesting opportunity to just connect, you know,
Mhm.
people with service and people who are looking for them, and just there's this communication gap that I can bridge with marketing. So this is where it came from.
Right. Okay. So I'm so sorry about what you guys experienced. Gosh,
Thank you.
that sounds really difficult. And you're not the first person to tell me recently, actually, that they've been through a traumatic event and nobody recommended therapy for them. Is it a traumatic event? Like, I'm actually a friend of mine. He just went through a traumatic event on an airline like
Hmm.
last week or 2 weeks ago, And he's like, he's a therapist. He's like, nobody at their airline reached out and said, we want to refer you to therapy or we want to offer you this. He was like, nothing. So I know that that's really interesting. So I hope people out there listening to that, it's really important to offer that as a resource. And through your own discovery process for, going and finding yourself a therapist, you had this realization. And that's
Mhm.
really something to consider, therapist friends. Like how we present ourselves to other therapists is not the same of how we want to be presenting ourselves to future clients. So that's some really good wisdom right there. Okay. So you right now focus on helping therapists attract private pay clients is one of the things that you do within your marketing coaching. Um,
Right.
and I know that is something out there that a lot of therapists want to move into. They want to get away from insurance panels and get more private pay clients. And before we started recording, you were sharing with me, the difference between being on insurance panels and
Mhm.
getting clients versus being in private pay. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between the two? Like if you're on insurance, how you get those clients versus if you're private pay, how you get those clients?
Sure. So the majority of my clients are private pay, and what I know, I have um, a couple of clients that do accept insurance.
Mhm.
But with the insurance, I think insurance refers people, but it does but the insurance is not there to filter people, like if that's a good fit for you or if it's not a good fit for you. So you as the provider have to do it on your own. I think you do accept a big influx of people because there's a high demand right now, but you kind of left in the situation where you have to filter because otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed working with anybody, and that's a recipe for burnout.
Mhm.
So there's one way, but with the private pay clients you have to be much more strategic because you have to attract them because you don't have this insurance these insurance panels that refer to you consistently. So you have to create awareness about your services. First of all, you have people need to know
Mhm.
who you are, what you do. You have to present yourself a certain way. And also, you need to constantly promote your services, and maybe with time less, because you probably will start, receiving a lot of word of mouth referrals. But especially initially,
Mhm.
and if you want to focus on a specific niche, it's very important to be active in marketing.
Okay. Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you're on insurance panels, those clients are going to kind of come to you because they're
Hmm.
looking at their insurance going, who takes my insurance? And they're
Yeah.
just, they're like you said, they're filtering. And I mean, I do that a lot. People say, I have this insurance. I'm like, okay, well, go to this website and filter by insurance and filter by your location, and you'll find
Yeah.
all the people who are taking your insurance. And then you can decide if it's a fit for you or not. Versus my therapist friends who are in private pay where they are, they don't take insurance. It's a little bit more difficult for them to market, or no, I'm sorry, not market, but like to get those clients because they don't have, like you said, this filtering system. So if you're out there and you are wanting to, transition from insurance panels
Hmm.
to private pay, what are some things that um, our listeners need to be considering or thinking about as they head down that path?
Sure. So one of the first things that I always start working on with my clients is really zooming in on their ideal client or who they want to work with,
Mm-hmm.
because marketing is built on the premise that you are going to help someone to solve their problem, right? So in some way, so obviously we cannot solve everybody's problem in one marketing message, right? So we have to figure out who would be the right person. And that the right person may be the people who you most enjoy working with. Maybe it's based on your specialty. Maybe it's based on your location and what makes most sense for you from a business perspective. But that really needs to be thought through because if you say, well, I'm a therapist, I'm open, and I treat everything, people just say, oh, it's good to know, but it's not going to be this feeling of, oh, that's the right person for me. I need to see this person. So this
Mm-hmm.
is what we work on. first
Okay.
of all. So this is a strategy, really. It's not before we move into tactics of how actually attracting clients.
Yeah. And I know a lot of therapists have a hard time figuring out their ideal client for some reason. It's just, I mean, when I think about it, I have ideal clients. Like I can kind of go off in different directions of who who I would most like to work with. And I recently on my last episode with Sarah Rivera,
Mm-hmm.
who by the way was connected because of your newsletter, which you guys have to subscribe to her newsletter if you're not already subscribed, and we'll put the link in the show notes. Her advice was, who's your favorite type of client? Like, who do you just love working with? And start from there. And I thought, well, that's really good advice. Like, that makes really good sense. And I do think on some level, therapists are like, well, I feel bad just having a favorite, because I can help so many. I can help so I want to encourage, if you want private pay clients, you have to get very specific and you have to get very niche down. And so thinking about who is your favorite type of client to work with, that's just one way of doing it. Like you said, there's other ways. You mentioned like in your area, like what's most needed. That was another way that
Yeah.
you can
Mm-hmm.
identify. Okay, that's really cool. And I never thought about that. Um, that's interesting.
Right. So, for example, if you're in an area that is like rural and you are trying to target, urban professionals, it's obviously not going to work for you. So
Right.
you can build a brand about being a local therapist up there, like really understanding the community where you live in. So there are many ways to approach this. And in fact, to put people at ease, just because you're creating a marketing message and a strategy for a particular niche doesn't mean that you will only be working with these type of people. Because if I like my therapist, I am not like thinking to myself, oh, this therapist only focuses on this niche. When if a friend of mine asks about a recommendation, I would say, oh, I really like my therapist. You should give them a call,
Mm,
and whether this person is in your niche or not, it doesn't matter. So I think that this fear of alienating other types of clients, um, it's understandable, but it's a little bit unfounded in reality, because in reality people will seek you out anyway.
okay. Okay. That makes sense. So what else would you suggest or recommend as they get started?
So as you get started, first of all, I would recommend to build a website.
Yes.
I can't I can't stress enough how important a website, a good professional website is for therapists, because I don't know, the statistics changes all the time, but I think somewhere around 80% of people do healthcare related search online on
Mhm.
Google. So if you're not on Google, you're really limiting yourself um, to how people will find about you. And it's your online home. So you either do it yourself, you can do it yourself, or you can hire a company or a designer, but that would be the first step.
Mhm. Okay. And do you help your clients with that sort of thing, helping them kind of figure out the website, how they want to design it, or do you recommend that they find somebody to do, like, is that part of your coaching, I guess?
So part of my coaching does include figuring out how the website should be structured
Mhm.
from a marketing perspective, because a website needs to make sense for your business. You know, it's not just an online brochure. It needs to have a specific role in your business, such as it has to be your salesperson, it has to be your information hub, it has to be it has to convert your visitors to your clients. So I help people structure. I help people with content, with writing,
Mhm.
because writing for marketing is a little bit different than writing, academic writing that therapists are used to. Writing for marketing has a specific purpose. So I help people write the content, figure out the structure, and then I can either recommend how to build it themselves, or I am affiliated with a few companies that I send people to, like, write a vision, and it's just easier.
Mhm.
I think
Sure.
people should have the um, ownership of their decision on how they're going to build their website.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great advice. So website would be the second thing because like you said, that's your online home. Do you recommend, and I'm just curious, do you recommend like a lead magnet of some sort to get to start an email list, or is that not really what you're going for? You just want them to go to your website and call you or connect with the counselor.
So funny that you should ask about the lead magnet, because one of the only service that I provide that is done for you is email marketing.
Oh,
And I think that email marketing is one of the most powerful ways to convert convert leads to clients. And for the most part, therapists don't have lead magnets. I recommend that they do, because you will spend so much time and effort in bringing people to your website. And if a person is not ready to book an appointment with you and they leave without leaving their email address, there is no guarantee that they will ever come back. If you give them something valuable in exchange for their email, like a lead magnet that is valuable, you can continue this conversation after in email marketing. So I do recommend that there would be a lead magnet.
yeah. I love email marketing. I love it.
Yeah.
I have fallen in love with it. I used to hate it. I used to struggle with it so much, but now I absolutely love it. I think the hard part for me with, I mean, this is totally about me now, but is getting people to convert onto my lead magnet with what I have on my website. But I'm trying to promote my courses, so I give them
Hmm.
50% off their first course. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's like sometimes I'm like, well, how do I get that in front of more people, But that's a whole other podcast in itself, a whole other idea, to kick around.
And it's hard, and I
Mhm.
can tell you, it's hard for me too. But what you do is constantly test
Mhm.
different things, as marketing is, you know, the big part of marketing is testing,
Yeah,
constantly testing what works, changing a little something.
right.
Maybe your call to action needs to change. Maybe the color of your button can be different. Like,
Mhm.
there are many things that you can do to test.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that because I don't see it so much as a failure. It's more like, okay, well, what can I change a little bit to maybe have that conversion happen? So,
Right.
I am curious though. So, like just thinking this through. So, what type of lead magnet do you think works really well for therapists in private pay? Is it like a free something that you can have to help your anxiety, or you know what I mean? Like what seems to work well?
So it really depends on who your audience is. Like, and I would say that little guides or something that can offer an immediate transformation of some sort, like some
Sure.
improve life, even if it's just for a tiny bit, but immediately. And it
Gotcha.
has to be very specific to a problem, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so as you said, like, what therapists, a lot of therapists are having a hard time figuring out their ideal client. One of my most popular lead magnets, and I have several free resources that people can download, but one of the most popular ones is an ideal client worksheet, like a profile worksheet sheet that people can just download, and it's a questionnaire, and people can ask a bunch of questions and stuff like that, and people love it
Mhm.
because it's so specific, right? And
Mhm.
it's and at the end of it, they will come up with some kind of an idea, some kind of clarity about who their ideal client is.
Yeah, that just gave me an idea as you were saying that. You said it's like a quiz. Is that what you said? Or no?
It's like a questionnaire.
A
Yeah.
questionnaire. So quizzes are really, really, really popular and they convert
Yeah.
really, really well. I used to have one before my old one got hacked. I had two quizzes on there and man, they converted so well. I'm thinking about bringing that back to my website. So it would be cool. You could even do who is your ideal, client quiz on your website. Like that would be, I mean, I'd rather that'd be so easy. You just go on your website and start taking the quiz versus having to wait for the download to come. You can start like working on it right away.
Right.
There's an idea.
I know. tools of any kind are
Yeah.
great converters. It's just that it's a matter of building them. You have
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm.
find the time to build them and make them logical and stuff like this. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely.
Well, cool. All right. Well, have you helped therapists in the past make a quiz for their site? Because I think that would be something to, I think
You
would be
know, I
cool.
have not, I haven't yet. I
Okay.
haven't, but I would love to.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe you and I can work on that offline because I need some
Sure.
help. Okay. Okay. So what else is important? So you said once you get them on, get the lead magnet to them, then you have them on your email. So how
Right.
often would you recommend that you email these potential clients?
So interesting. I recommend that when a person signs up to your email, this is the time that the person feels the most open to receiving more information, right? So I would recommend creating a short welcome sequence that is packed with valuable information. So maybe it's a link to a very important blog post, or maybe it's a link to something else. So maybe 3, 4 emails just welcoming the person, making them feel like they are, you're happy to have them there. And so this sequence can be pretty frequent. You can have like a couple of days between those emails, 2, 3 days. Um, my welcome sequence is actually it's every day. So because I'm trying to capture, but with therapists maybe it needs to be a little bit more sporadic. And then after people, this you get the people an opportunity to get to know you and to see your value and to see how you can help them. And so after when you start sending out like an email, with updates on a newsletter every week or 2 weeks, they already know they don't forget you so easily. And so it's easier for you to convert them after.
Makes sense. Yeah, I like that. My email sequence starts out you get the code to get a half off a course, and then from there it's a weekly the a welcome sequence is I think 5 or 6 weeks. Every Monday you get a new email. And then I will email my list. I try to do it every week, but I find that every other week works really well because then I have more content to share with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I have been on some lists where it's like every day I'm getting something, and to me that's overwhelming. Like it's just too much, and I don't read them. I think once a
Mm-hmm.
week is good
Yeah.
personally as what I do. But I also kind of like every 2 weeks for what I'm doing. I think it just I don't know. Maybe that's my own stuff. Like I don't want to bother people because I feel like I don't know, maybe once a week's too much. I'll have to think about that, but this is such good information. Um, okay. And then what else can you share about, private pay clients? Like what would be your next thing that you would recommend?
The next thing would be offline. The next thing would be really figuring out how to network and create relationships with other providers, and also with providers, medical providers as well, because it's
Right.
kind of tightly related. And I find it very surprising that it's such a separate world. Both worlds are separate. The physicians and the mental health professional are kind of like they're separate. And I think that there's a lot of benefit to the client and to each provider to connect. And the mental health space is it has such a strong referral culture to begin with. Um, and people will refer, but people need to get to know you. Like you can't expect people to refer to you if they don't really know who you are,
Right.
what your specialties are, like how you can help them. And another aspect that is very important. When people refer to you, they put their own reputation on the line. Like so, needs to know that they refer to somebody who can actually help the person that contacted them. So reaching out to somebody who has complementary services. So, for example, if you're working with, I don't know, marriage counseling, maybe you can connect with somebody who provides individual therapy for like women or something like that. So,
Mhm.
looking for those complementary connections is very important. And really go out of your way, like meet for coffee, or maybe have a phone call, something that is more than just a mass email saying I'm open for referrals, because it's just not going to be as effective.
Right, right. Okay, so I think I really like the networking part that you brought up, and that's for me, that's probably with what I do and where I am been the most beneficial for finding, you know, other therapists that I feel good recommending to clients that might need a higher level of care. So I really like that. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you can think of that you would recommend?
I would recommend optimizing your Psychology Today profile. Make it pop, make it stand out, because I think it's a wonderful directory. It's
Mhm.
like a default directory for therapists, right? So everybody almost has a listing. So make sure that you talk to your ideal client there. Make sure that you show how you can solve a specific problem for them, and present yourself in a great way. Like have a professionally done photograph, or somebody who's very good at photography in your family, or like loved ones that maybe can take a picture of you,
Mhm.
record a short video. Really do a good job, because Psychology Today can be a great source of referrals as well.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So one of the things that I've had success with is the Google My Business. I get
Mhm.
like random, and I'm not even in private practice, but I'll get calls asking if I'm taking new clients. So how does that work for therapists? Like, how do you recommend people use that to their uh, best practices, I guess?
Well, first of all, creating a listing on Google My Business, because it's free
Yeah.
and you should be on it. Second of all, when you have a confirmed listing, and obviously, again, you need to optimize it. You need to be very thoughtful about how you write about your practice and everything. But the benefit of it is that it appears in the map. So if a person is looking for a therapist in the location, and I would say that near me, um, is adding near me to the keyword is like the most popular thing. So people will look therapist near me for
Hmm.
therapist near me, and then if you're on Google Maps, you will come up.
Hmm.
So it's extremely important for local SEO, for example. And yes, if you have, the only thing is, therapists cannot ask for reviews, right? It's
Right.
not something that you can do, but you can ask your colleagues to review you. You can ask your supervisor to review you. You can
Hmm.
ask other professionals to review you. That they still are valuable reviews. It's still, social proof how good you are at your job.
Right. Yeah. That is I feel like people don't, or maybe I've just don't know if people use it enough, but I really feel like Google My Business. I think it's called something else now, Google Business Profile, maybe. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
That is like a secret. And that I'm always telling people, optimize that because I get calls and I'm not even in private practice. But I did set it up for my website for the podcast. So I think that's probably how that all kind of came about. So it makes sense that they would find me, because I do tell them there that I am a therapist. So if they're typing that in and they live within my zip code or whatever, then I'm gonna pop up. Although my address is my PO box for my business, so my business address. I think yeah. So it's kind of funny how that works. I'm like I don't
They
really work
allow
in
PO
Target.
box.
Well, I think what no. So for them to it's my not my PO box, but it's my like where I get my mail is a UPS, UPS
Okay.
store. So it's an actual address, but they actually to verify me, they did send it to my home address to make sure I'm a real person and all that. But
Mhm.
it's funny because people think I'm like located next to Target because that's where the UPS store is. Like, no, no, I'm virtual, but that's just where my mail goes. But it is, I mean, I get calls, so it works. It really works. It's pretty cool. Um,
Exactly. Hmm.
yeah. So I do have one more question. Let me ask you this because if somebody finds you and they call you, they don't go to your website, they just call you. And the first thing they say is, do you take my insurance? And you're not taking insurance. Is there something that you recommend that we should be kind of thinking about before the phone calls even happen? Because that question is going to come. People are going to want to use their insurance. And if you're a private pay clinician, and is there something maybe that we can be saying or doing, think ahead of time to have that conversation?
So, and you saying that's for somebody who doesn't land on the website, so they
Right.
just call you directly, right? So I would think I would recommend to have a script
Okay.
for ready for first call. So because you want to be in charge of this conversation, like somebody comes, they call you, so you can do several things. You can have a very detailed FAQ page on your website, and you can tell people to go there. You can also have you know, canned answers, like ready answers to questions like these.
Mhm.
You can explain that you don't, but you can provide a super bill. You can explain that they can check their benefits with their insurance. They can you can provide additional value. And you can also explain the benefit of seeing somebody out of network, or like without insurance, because there's, you know, privacy value and stuff like this, I
Mhm.
think. So as long as you're prepared for this conversation, you won't be caught off guard. And I think you should prepare for this conversation.
Okay, that's really good
Yeah.
advice. Super helpful. Because when I took that phone call, I didn't
Hmm.
know. I just answered it. I probably shouldn't have let it. I probably should have let it go to voicemail, but I answered it, and the person was saying, "I'm calling because I want to set up a family therapy appointment." And I was so taken off guard because I just wasn't, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking on new people, so I was quick to say, "Hey, I'm not taking new clients, but do you?" And because I
Hmm.
knew, like, I wanted to refer them to somebody because I don't just want to leave them hanging. It took a lot
Yeah.
of guts to pick up the phone and call and ask. And so he said, "Well, we want to use our insurance." And I said, "Okay, this is what I would do." And I just said, you know, "I can give you some names, go to this website, look it up, look, filter by your insurance." And that was great. He was just happy, I think, somebody give him some direction, to find a therapist. But that's interesting because I thought afterwards, I was like, well, what if I am taking on clients, or I want to get
Hmm.
into this? Like, I just turn somebody away that, you know, could have been a client. So I'm glad that you were able to share what we should be thinking about before they
Right.
call. Yeah.
Right. And I would say that most questions are probably repetitive. Like if
Yeah.
you sat down and listed like 20 questions that people ask you all the time,
Mhm.
you would probably be able to answer them, like give answers and have them ready for when
Mhm.
people are asking questions.
Yeah. You know who does a really good job of that is Whitney Owens. Are you familiar with Whitney? She owns a group practice in Savannah, Georgia, and she has a podcast. And one of her episodes, I can't remember which one, but she's also in the Sightcraft Network with us,
Hmm.
was all about like how to talk to your potential clients about private pay. Like what you should be
Yeah.
saying. And I'll have to go and find that episode, you guys, but it is just so good. And I learned so much. So I'll link to that in the show notes so y'all can go listen to Whitney and how she explains it. I even think she has a freebie that you can get from her website about um, like what to say, as a private pay
See, it's a
clinician.
great lead magnet.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Great
Like
lead magnet.
it's a great lead magnet for other therapists. Well,
Yeah.
okay, so once again, tell everybody how they can find you, where they should connect with you, all that good stuff.
Sure. So again, you can find me on my website, Red Strategy. It's with two D's. You can also find a ton of free marketing resources for therapists over there. Besides the ideal client worksheet, I have, a marketing checklist for somebody who's starting a private practice. I have a branding questionnaire. So you should just check it out.
Okay.
Um, so my website, I also have a weekly newsletter, therapy business brief. Um, it's it's basically a newsletter that is a curation of what is happening in the mental health industry and how it applies to your business as in private practice. So it comes out once a week. It's coming out later today, and I'm on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
You can like Lisa, you can say hi to me. I'll always respond. I'm going to be happy to hear from you. And yeah,
Okay. Well, this has just been so great. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this knowledge and wisdom. I know it's going to help plenty of listeners out there who are wondering, how do I get into private pay? And there's plenty of listeners who are actually in school right now and who know that when they get out, they want to put a shingle up and, go into practice. And I think this episode is going to help them, before they even graduate, think about who is my ideal client and who do I love working with, or what are the needs in around me, and what am I seeing in my peers that I can help with. And this has just been chock full. So thank you, Avivit. I've just enjoyed this so much.
Thank you so much. I had such a great time. Thank you for asking me all those questions.
Oh yeah, you're
I
welcome.
can geek out on marketing for therapists for hours.
Well, I'm
Thank you
glad
for giving
somebody
me.
can, because we need your help. So I'm so glad you're geeking out on it. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine.
Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content.
And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.